So this Sunday there isn't a service in church, I'm afraid. I'm hoping by next Sunday we may be a little bit more back to normal, as it were, and have a Sunday service then. But I'll be able to let you know nearer time and later in the week. Depends how things go, I'm afraid. But I'm going to read the lessons which are set for the second Sunday after Epiphany and a few thoughts to accompany those readings. The first reading is from the first book of Samuel, and it's the calling of the child Samuel when he was serving in the ark at the Ark of the Covenant with Eli the priest. The boy Samuel was ministering to the Lord under Eli the priest. The word of the Lord was rare in those days. Visions were not widespread. At that time Eli, whose eyesight had begun to grow dim so that he could not see, was lying down in his room. The lamp of God had not yet gone out, and Samuel was lying down in the temple of the Lord, where the ark of God was. And then the Lord called, "Samuel, Samuel," and he said, "Here I am." And he ran to Eli, and he said, "Here I am, you called me." But he said, "I did not call. Lie down again." So he went and lay down. The Lord called again, "Samuel, Samuel." Samuel got up and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, for you called me." But he said, "I did not call, my son. Lie down again." For Samuel did not yet know the Lord, and the word of the Lord had not yet been revealed to him. The Lord called Samuel again a third time, and he got up and went to Eli and said, "Here I am, for you called me." Then Eli perceived that the Lord was calling the boy. Therefore Eli said to Samuel, "Go, lie down, and if he calls you, you shall say, 'Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening.'" So Samuel went and lay down in his place. And now the Lord came and stood there, calling as before, "Samuel, Samuel." And Samuel said, "Speak, for your servant is listening." And the psalm set for Sunday is one of the most beautiful of the psalms, 139. I'm going to read some of the verses and not all of them. "Lord, you have searched me out and known me. You know when I sit, you know when I stand, you comprehend my thoughts long before. You discern my path and the places where I rest. You are acquainted with all my ways. There is not a word on my tongue, but you, Lord, know it altogether. You have encompassed me behind and before, and laid your hand upon me. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, so high that I cannot endure it. Where shall I go from your spirit? Where shall I flee from your presence? If I ascend into heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in the grave, you are there also. If I spread out my wings to the morning, or dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there your hand shall lead me, your right hand shall hold me. If I say, surely the darkness will cover me, and the night will enclose me. The darkness is no darkness with you, but the night is as clear as the day. The darkness and the light are both alike. For you have created my inward parts and knit me together in my mother's womb. I will praise you, for you are to be feared. Fearful are your acts, and wonderful your works. And then this from St. John's Gospel, and it is Nicodemus coming to Jesus, Nathanael rather, coming to Jesus. Jesus decided to go to Galilee. He found Philip and he said to him, "Follow me." Now Philip was from Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. Philip found Nathanael and said to him, "We have found him, about whom Moses in the law and also the prophets wrote, Jesus, son of Joseph, from Nazareth." Nathanael said to him, "Can anything good come from Nazareth?" Philip said to him, "Come and see." When Jesus saw Nathanael coming toward him, he said to him, "Truly, here is an Israelite in whom there is no deceit." Nathanael asked him, "Where did you come to know me?" Jesus answered, "I saw you under the fig tree before Philip called you." Nathanael replied, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God, you are the King of Israel." Jesus answered, "Do you believe because I told you that I saw you under the fig tree? You will see greater things than these." And he said to him, "Very truly, I tell you, you will see heaven opened and the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man." The figure of light and darkness, I think, is really important in these readings for today, not as symbols for good and evil, but as symbols for whether we perceive God's presence or whether we don't. In the first reading, we have Eli, who is the priest of God, and yet whose eyes are dim, not simply dim with age, but dim because he has become distant from God. Although he is the priest and entrusted with the cult and the prayers and the sacrifices of the people, yet he has lost sight of God. That's what that reading's about. And it is at night. It is at night and the time when things are not seen in a way. And yet the light of God burns there by the ark of the presence. And God comes and stands there and speaks. Eli does not hear God. It is Samuel, the child, who hears his voice. God speaks and God is present. And only one perceives that he is there, and that is Samuel, the child. Eli knows that God is speaking to Samuel, and yet he cannot see it, he cannot hear it, and yet God is there. Eli is in the darkness, and the light is burning now for Samuel, whom God has chosen. Light for knowledge, light for the presence of God. And there in that gospel reading, Philip is saying to Nathanael, "Come and see, come and see." Nathanael finds it hard to believe that anything wonderful could come from the village of Nazareth, way out there in Galilee. He comes anyway. And yet he discovers that it isn't the case so much that he has come to see, but rather that Jesus had already seen him. Jesus had already seen him. What's this got to do with us? A few days ago, a man was talking to me. He is someone who is undergoing some fairly, tough things in his life at the moment, I have to say. And yet there was joy in his voice. He was saying, my life has changed, he said. I have found Jesus. And I said to him, have you found Jesus? Or has he found you? And he laughed and he said, I think it's that. He says, I think Christ has found me. I think Christ has found me. The man was speaking of his life and saying how he described himself as a blasphemer. It sounds rather old-fashioned these days, and yet this is very much a Hexham man from 2021. And how his whole life has been, in this moment, turned upside down by that awareness of that presence, of that Christ whom he is trying to learn about and discover something about what it is that has happened, who it is that has come to him. Was Christ absent in all those years when he blasphemed? Was Christ not there in all the time when he believed that there was absolutely nothing to life except for the physical? Surely Christ was there, and yet he could not see it. And yet now he realizes that that light is there. It is not so much what he has found, but that he is aware that Christ has found him. God comes and God acts and God speaks and God does where and how and with whom he will. When we stand in the day and look up to the sky, we do not see the stars, for the sun is shining, and yet they are there. When darkness falls, and on a clear night, well, certainly like this night tonight in Hexhamshire, night falls and we see a different sky and a different reality. The sky is filled with the planets and the stars, and they have their place in our life. They help and have helped for thousands of years travellers and mariners to find their way across trackless deserts and seas, to find their place to the safety where they would be, to the port, to the haven, to the town, to the city, to the road, to the track where they would make their way. Whether it be the night or whether it be the day, there is a different light to find us, to help us to find our way. And it seems to be in the psalm when he says to the Lord, the light and the darkness are both alike. The light and the darkness are both alike. Do you see what I'm trying to say? The stars are there in the night to help us find our way by one means, just as the sun shines in the day to guide us with its light in a different way. Without the light, without any light, we cannot find our way. When the sky is obscured at night, we cannot see the stars, and yet they are there. As a seafarer, I know that when for many days we were in bad weather and couldn't use the sun, we had to basically guess where we were. We had no idea because that light was hidden from us, and yet it was there. Surely we are no different to that. The presence of God is constant. The light of God is always there. The presence of God is never absent. Sometimes we see it and sometimes we don't. Sometimes we look for it and sometimes we look away. It is not so much that God does not seek us, but that we do not care to open our eyes and see. Nathanael listened to Philip and followed against his better judgment, and found the Lord who already knew him, who had already seen him, who already understood him. May all those who seek know that they are found and known already by the Lord. May he be our light, whether it be the stars at night or the sun in the day, that we may not stumble nor lose our way, but find by his light our path, our journey to our safe harbour, and know that he is with us on that journey always. Amen.